Member for the Western Arctic.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague again from Labrador for bringing forward this item under his private member's time. I think quite clearly any discussion on northern issues that we have in this House of Commons I'm pleased to see, and I look at his amendment with favour. It's an amendment that speaks to a number of issues that are ongoing and consistently ongoing in terms of northern development, connections to southern Canada, the issues around the transportation within the north. All these things are extremely important. And as a person who's worked on road issues in the Northern Territory, Northwest Territories for many years, connections to Alberta, connections to British Columbia, I know the difficulty that we have right now. And you know, Mr. Speaker, last summer our major connection to British Columbia through Fort Nelson, our section of the highway was closed for a month because the roadbed is completely deteriorated. You're talking about a roadbed that's hundreds of kilometers long. The cost of putting that roadbed into good shape are far beyond the capacity of the territorial government right now, and needs the support of the federal government. Needs British Columbia is interested, but we need to have the federal government at the table as well, talking about the issues, agreeing that these are priority items, and actually putting some dollars towards them. When we talk about shovel-ready, that's one road that could be fixed immediately. We also have the Dempster Highway between the Yukon and the Northwest Territories. Same situation exists there. The roadbed is completely deteriorated since it was built. The patchwork that goes on that road system to keep that road link open has been an ongoing cost, but really it's very difficult to get ahead on a road development of that magnitude because, of course, it would suck up the entire budget of the government of Northwest Territories for road building. And that's part of the problem. When you talk about Alberta, we have one fairly decent highway into the Northwest Territories from Alberta. The other road link that we've looked at for years, of course, it goes through Fort McMurray, and I note my colleague from Fort McMurray has failed to meet with me on this particular road issue for the 3 years I've been here. But I think that's another issue that we would like to see the federal government come to the table as well. And when we talk about the requirement for roads, you can stretch right across the country through northern Manitoba, where there's lots of interest in the linkages into Rankin and into the Kitikmeot. This issue spans the entire north. We don't have leadership from the federal government on roads. We haven't had it for many years. So without some indication from the federal government that they want to support northern roads and the connections to the provinces, without the federal government actively lobbying the provinces and ensuring that the provinces would come to the table as partners in building these roads and maintaining these roads, we're going to be in the same situation in the future. There are many other issues, energy issues. You know, the federal government invested for a long time in a bureaucracy that talked about remote communities. We had much work done through Natural Resources Canada on identifying all the remote communities in Canada and their particular energy requirements. Any of those off the transmission grid, off the natural gas pipelines, these were considered remote communities. They're in the northern part of the provinces. They're in the Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Nunavut. We need a policy from the federal government that deals with the need to change the energy systems in these remote communities. The work was done years ago. We don't see any directed funds towards accomplishing the kind of work that we all know is necessary. Mr. Speaker, in my riding, we've had great success in the last 2 to 3 years with our government of Northwest Territories converting major buildings from fuel oil to wood pellets. Helps the forest industry in northern Alberta, which I'm sure my colleagues from Alberta would agree with me is a good idea. Where's the federal government in this? Where's the federal government in encouraging the transformation of northern communities from this rather expensive and completely not good for the environment fuel oil into a reasonable product like wood pellets? Where is the federal government? Where was it in the budget this time? Not there. So we have those issues as well. We don't have leadership on energy issues throughout the north, and that's north and south of the territorial boundaries. That's in communities like Fort Chipewyan, communities like Churchill, Manitoba, communities right across the north. Third issue I wanted to touch briefly on was the Northern Residents Tax Deduction. We need tax policy. Tax policy in Canada applies south of the 60th parallel to the northern parts of the provinces and north of the 60th parallel to the three territories. We saw that the Conservative government acknowledged there was a problem with it in the budget in 2008 by raising it by 10%. Everyone across the north wanted it raised by 50% just to keep up with the inflation that has occurred since in the 20 years since it was first introduced by the Mulroney government. So right there, taxation policies for northerners are important for the territories as well as the northern parts of the provinces. Yes, there's requirements for the federal government to work cooperatively to build the relationships that are required in the northern part of this country. Absolutely, and I'd encourage the government to support this motion as well and to get proactive on this issue. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about water, the water issues in our country, we haven't seen I speak to the Mackenzie Valley Basin, where for the last 12 years after the master agreement was signed with the federal government and the three provinces and two territories that were engaged in the Mackenzie Valley Agreement on water, we have yet to see the federal government stand up and demand that the bilateral agreements be signed so that actually some work can get done on water issues across Western Canada where the Mackenzie Basin occurs. That hasn't happened. So once again, we see a lack of work that goes on within the federal government that cooperatively with the provinces to make conditions better for northerners. Mr. Speaker, the motion is one that I had some concerns with the direction of the motion, because I certainly don't want the motion to interfere in any way with the movement of the three territories towards governance, the understanding that the three territories and the federal government have a fiduciary relationship that is still there. It's intact. It has not been changed. One thing about northern parts of the provinces, they do have the full protection of their provincial governments for resources and land. That doesn't exist in my territory, in Nunavut. It's being slowly introduced in the Yukon, but we do need movement in that aspect. When it comes to regulatory issues, this government said they don't like the way that the regulations work in the north. They want to change them. Well, our government in the Northwest Territories has presented this government with the kinds of changes that they see would be required in the regulatory system. I'd like to see what this government is going to do with those suggestions, those pragmatic and straightforward recommendations that came from the government of the Northwest Territories. These all show, is this government interested in northern development of people and governance, or is it simply interested in opening up the north for further economic development? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.